Hello again, I am Jim Bob and welcome back to Marwell Manor. It's the start of our 5th day. You can see that the sun is up. It's unfortunately obscured behind some clouds. We've got a bit of an overcast start to the day here, but we do have some growth starting on our fields. We've got this lovely sort of first stage coming in quite nicely here. That's great to see. So our field is starting to progress. That's good. I would imagine the next field 15, will be the same. We'll pop over there and have a check a little bit later. First thing though is we're going to get off and running with our planting. Going to get our cedar up and running on field 1 and get our soybean crop planted. So let's get into the 7R for this. There we go. Make our way out of the shed. There we go. And we're not going to be fulfilling our cedar because this is the last time it's going to be used this year. Well, at least until our harvests are done. We'll probably actually put some OSR down over our sort of off-season period. So we're only going to sort of partially fill the cedar and then we'll empty it out at the end and bag up whatever's left. Save that for later in the year. So we can actually get positioned properly this time. There we go. Cover open. Seed going in. That should be enough, I would imagine. I would hope. Same with the fertilizer. There we go. Close the lid down. Let's just drop that there for a second. Let's just head over to field 15 and see if we've got some growth coming on field 15 as well. And yes, there you can see the first stage of our canola crop is coming in nicely as well. So field's starting to look a little bit healthier. Careful not to back onto the crop there. And now it's time for us to go and put our soybean into the ground on field 1. So let's get hooked back up to our Pronto. Need to change the seed type as well because we're still set for canola. There we go, change for soybean. And we'll just trundle our way through the farm here. So once this seeding is done, we're going to crack on and get some fertilizing done. We've got 20,000 after seed and fertilizer costs here. Now, some of the fertilizer that isn't used in this, we can put into the fertilizer spreader that we have. So we can use up whatever fertilizer is left over. The seed will just kind of have to wait until we need to plant our OSR cover crops. But here we go, onto the edge of the field. Just bring the cedar through. Positioned correctly, there we go. Get dropped. Switched on, and away we go with our soybean crop. So hopefully we'll make some good money with soybean. Obviously we need to try and get as best a price as we possibly can when we do come to sell. Just keeping an eye on the seed drop rate. Seed drop rate is pretty slow. Fertilizer drop rate perhaps a little bit faster than I was expecting. You never know, we may have to go and actually top up our fertilizer if I've misjudged this. I mean, if we do, it's not a major issue. I was just, you know, I wouldn't expect us to need the full 2,000 litre tank. We'll see. And of course, with this field already having a first stage of fertiliser, once this is done, all we need to do basically is just keep an eye out for weeds growing on the field, and we can leave this crop alone until it's grown. That is quite a help, quite a bit of a weight off. You know, obviously we'll get some weeds pop up at some point. Once those are done, we can basically just ignore this field until it's ready. So we don't have to keep coming over and checking it. We don't have to come back and fertilise it. That's going to be a big help going forward, because it is a bit of a way away from the rest of our fields and our equipment as well. So our headland put in around the edge, our border pass. And hopefully we'll get some slightly clearer weather later on today. We'll actually be able to see, you know, some nice blue skies. The cloud might hopefully burn away. We'll have to see how the weather shakes out. I mean, I suppose it doesn't really matter. What it does is, you know, we're not beholden to having, you know, glorious sunshine. We can work just as well with the weather like this if we need to. Rain is not going to cause us any issues. Not until we actually come to the harvesting. And tomorrow we'll be cracking on with doing some grass work, making a start on that, and doing our first cut. We're going to sort of split our grass field into a couple of different days, a few different days. We're not going to do it all in one single day, because otherwise, you know, we run the risk of just running out of time and leaving a load of grass just lying in the field. So we will sort of break the field up into chunks. I think will be the easiest way for us to deal with it, and that gives us time to not just get it cut, but also for the hay to get it tedded and rowed and then baled, and for the silage baled and wrapped, and get all those bales collected and transported down to the farm where we can stick them into storage, or take them off to the barn where we can get them sold. So, you know, it's a lot of work involved, and we're going to kind of just, as I say, break that into more manageable chunks. I think there's only so many hours in the day, and, you know, making the bales is going to be relatively straightforward, but transporting them all afterwards is going to be a bit time consuming. So that's why we're going to split everything up a little bit, so we don't overwhelm ourselves with just a huge number of bales. I mean, it's not so much of an issue with the silage bales, but with the hay bales, I'd like to get those sort of in and, you know, into safely into storage, and not kind of leave them out. So there we go. And of course we are mocking seasons where we can. So, you know, we will be having a sort of fertilization or fermentation period for our silage bales. They will need a couple of days to ferment before we can take them to market and sell them. We will be sort of duplicating that from the actual seasons itself. Just try and square this field off a little bit if we can. There we go. If we just run straight along here, then we're going to have these little side panels to kind of fill in. I'm going to do the sides of the field first, get the awkward stuff out of the way, and then we can just concentrate on straight up and down runs on our field. It shouldn't take us too long to get this seeding done today, actually. It should be nice and straightforward. and then, as I say, once we're done here, we can then crack on with getting field 18 fertilised. I have no idea how long that's going to take. It shouldn't take too long. Our fertiliser spreader has a good working width. More of a concern is how much it's going to cost us to get that done. It could be a little bit more expensive than I'd like. I'm hoping we're going to have enough cash left over to be able to put a stage of fertiliser on field 15 as well. But if we don't, you know, as long as 18 gets the treatment, that's the important thing, because that's our biggest field. So that's going to have the most crop, and you want to make sure that the biggest field is the one that has the biggest return. You know, that's just common sense. So as long as we can get 18 done, if we can't get 15 done, it's a shame, but it's not the end of the world. But we've got to make sure that 18 gets a full application of fertiliser. Really maximise our oat harvest later in the year. And you can see I'm running with cruise control set. I like to do this when I'm doing my planting. I find it much easier to control the seeder and control the vehicle as well when I get to the end of a pass, if I have cruise control set to either at or just above operating speed, so that I can get to the end and I can raise the seeder and it doesn't suddenly lurch forward in acceleration. Just means we don't suddenly start veering out of control. And there we go, that's that little bit just here done. There we go. And now we've got the other side of the area over here by the hedge. I don't think there's going to be too much to do here, just kind of straighten up along here. There we go. Just do this little bit, and then we've got a nice straight edge for us to work from for this side of the field, and then we'll go across to the top side, because again that has that sloped edge, and we'll do the same over there, and then we'll have a nice straightforward up and down pass to make on our field. Nice and simple. I'm just looking at our fertiliser level. We have used up quite a bit of fertiliser already, so going to have to be careful of that, I think. Right, let's go do this far edge over here. Get this nice and straightened out. Let's see, where does it start to kind of turn away from us? It's just in front of us here. There we go. Now, one thing I have noticed with seeding like this is you can see that we are using a lot of fertiliser going over an area that we've already kind of fertilised. The seed isn't affected, but the fertiliser is, so that is just something to be very wary of. You know, you will use up fertiliser on ground that you've already seeded and fertilised if you keep the seeder down when you make your turns. That's why I like to lift my seeder up at the end of every pass, just to not waste that little extra bit of fertiliser. See our 7R bouncing around a little bit on this ploughed field here. Not quite as smooth a ride as when we were planting the other day on a cultivated field, but it's smooth enough. You know, we can get the job done. Just reline the seeder there, and off we go. You see, well, it's just gone 9 o'clock. We had a slightly later start than the last few days, but we don't have as much work to do today, and the work that we do have isn't as time consuming. We should get through it pretty quickly, I think. So no need for a ridiculously early start, when it's still dark and we can't really see where we're going properly. No need for that today. We'll probably have an earlier finish today as well, which will be quite nice. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. We will be getting up very early tomorrow to do our mowing. And I think we'll do some hay bales first. The zoo have been in contact, and they are running a little short on some hay. So we will make up some batch, some bales for them, a batch of bales. We'll get those delivered to the barn drop-off point, and then they can collect those a little bit later. And hopefully the money we get from that will allow us to then pay for opening up that private bunker inside the BGA, so that we can start to look at doing some work over there as well. Depending on how our silage baling goes, what I may well do is I may well look at perhaps getting some some extra equipment, like a loading wagon perhaps, that might speed up collecting of straw at the end of the harvest, when we just don't need to bale. We could just collect direct and then run that to the BGA or to the barn. We'll see how we go with the loose material sales, but we may just stick to bales. Plenty of sort of options out there for us. And there we go. We have completed the side sections of the field, so it's just nice, straightforward central section to fill in now. We'll get that done, and then we'll start our fertilizing. Well, I think it's fair to say I definitely underestimated how much fertilizer I was going to need on this field, and maybe the seed as well. The seed's going down at a rate that I wasn't quite expecting. So we're definitely going to have to top up our fertilizer levels. We may need to top up our seed levels as well. We'll keep going until we're almost out, and then we'll head back to the towers and restock. But I'm pretty confident we'll be okay in getting this field done, relatively quickly. No real delays. Keeping the tractor straight by using the furrows as my guideline. See, we're getting good coverage. And I've started sort of doing laps of the field. Just find it easier for lifting and then re-lowering the seeder, to not have to do it on a tight 180 degree turn, but to sort of stagger it. Just helps me stay a little bit more fluid in my movements on the field. I've been enjoying driving this 7R in first person while I've been doing my seeding. It's actually quite a lot of fun. And it's great that the ridge markers are actually visible again. Obviously there's no need to ridge mark this field. Plus I think the ridges would be pretty hard to distinguish from the plough furrows themselves. But on a standard cultivated field, the ridge markers worked really, really well when we did field 18. So it's been a lot of fun to do this seeding in first person. And there we we go, getting coverage to the edge is what we need. How much have I got left? 266. I've got another couple of passes at least, I think, before we have to go and top up. So one more sort of lap of the field, if you were. And then we'll head back, get topped up. And just go again. And there we go, lap complete. So seeder on, well, off, and folded up. Let's head back and top up our tanks. Look how quickly we've gone through that fertilizer and the seed. I completely underestimated just how much we would get through on the field. I mean, it's not a big issue, but I'm just going to fill them all the way up this time, and then, as I say, whatever's left over, we'll use the seed again towards the end of the year when we plant OSR, our cover crops, and you know, the fertilizer we can transfer across into the fertilizer spreader. So the only sort of perhaps slightly unnecessary expense will be buying a little bit of seed too early, but apart from that, you know, we're not going to be paying any more on fertilizer costs than trying to kind of just guess it a little bit. There we go. It seems that seems to be the trick, is to kind of just pull in that gap between the seeder, between the tanks, to fill the seeder up. So the fertilizer a little bit more forgiving. There we go. That's another £4,000 spent on on resources. So we're down to just under 14,000 left. But as I say, we should have enough to fertilise field 18. I really have no idea about 15. I'm starting to think probably not. I guess time will tell. Unfold our seeder. Did I drop the lid? Yes, I did. I thought I did. Not a lot left, as you can see. What time is it? About 11:15. That's fine. Turned a little bit too late there by the look of it. Try and straighten back up. Actually, that's almost spot on. It was slightly wonky. Let's try and straighten up a touch. There we go. And we are back up and running on field 1 again. Almost done now. What, just 2 passes it looks like? Not a lot left. Shouldn't take us too much longer. The seed has gone down a fair bit slower this time. Although maybe it's just a bit deceptive, because we did obviously fill the tank this time rather than just guesstimate how much we would need. Fertilizer seems to have slowed down a little bit as well. Maybe that's because we're actually, you know, spacing properly this time rather than going over strips of ground we've already covered to get those fiddly bits on the sides of the fields. But we are ticking along quite nicely. Looks like just one more pass needed after this one. Just a slight drift off the line there. on the previous pass. Let's quickly cover that up. There we go, get back on target. And I think we can probably cover that as one final pass. It's going to be tight, but I think we've got just enough working width to cover it. Still getting bobbled around a little bit. And there we go. Yes, we've got enough working width there. So final run then. And then our soybean is in the ground. Looking forward to getting this harvested. I think we can make quite a nice little bit of cash off this field here with soybean. Assuming we can get a good price at the market. That's the other thing. We're going to have to just pay attention when it comes to looking to sell and capitalise on getting the right price at the right time. We're going to have a limited window over our, in quotes, winter months, looking for those windows to sell our crops. But I'm pretty confident we'll get some decent prices when we need to. So how much fertiliser are we going to have left? Around about 1,400 litres. We'll, as I say, get that emptied out and transferred. We might just leave the seed in the seeder. Not sure yet, but the fertilizer will definitely transfer out. We need to empty and rinse out the lime, the little bit of leftover lime that we have. We'll get that bagged up, and then we can add in the fertilizer to our spreader. And there we go, field is done. So get the unit folded. Let's get off the field. Get this cleaned, put away, and start the fertilizing job on field 18. Let's see how much cash we've got. 13.7, 1,400 litres. We might have enough to do both fields. It's going to be really, really tight. If we can't get all of field 15 done, if we can at least get part of field 15 done, then that'll be a help. There'll be more money for us at the business end of the year. There we go. So let's give it a quick wash. Clean that mud off the mechanisms. You can see some of our metal plates there starting to have the paint scratched off. We'll have to look at giving this a bit of a tinker in the winter months. Get this back into tip-top shape for next year. Not too bothered about getting it repaired before we do our OSR plant, but over the winter we'll definitely make sure that that's properly maintained. We might even give it a fresh coat of paint as well. We'll see. You can see I took the weights off the wheel. I didn't want to overly compact the soil, so I took the weights off the 7R when I took the second set of rears off. Made sure that we weren't putting too much weight on the rear of this as we were driving through the field. So let's open that up and get our fertilizer out. So we're going to use the 6M for our fertilizing. I've already brought out the spreader and emptied and cleaned it out of the leftover lime. Looks like my front loader has been unattached. I have to go and refit that. I was going to move those lime pallets out of the way. I suppose we could probably put skinnies on as well. I mean, we don't necessarily need them, but it can't hurt. So let's do a little bit of tinkering on the 6155 here. We'll get the weight removed. We'll get the front loader fitting attached, and we'll change the wheels over to skinny wheels as well. There we go. A little bit of tinkering. We've got the front loader attachment taken, fitted back on. The weights have been taken off. Got the skinny wheels fitted. Let's get those pallets of lime moved out of the way. Let's think. I'll probably store them in there, I think. There we go. I forgot that I'd had to remove the mounting frame for our front loader when we fitted the weight while we were ploughing. So that's all been rectified. There we go. These are pretty heavy-duty sort of pallet bags, but even so, I don't want to leave them out for the next sort of 12 months exposed to the elements. That's just foolish. It's asking for something to happen, maybe in a field mouse or something to get in and rip the side of the bag, and then we've got lime spread all over the place that we can't do anything with. So yeah, we'll make sure these are tucked away until we need them again next year when we lime out fields 1 and 15, and no doubt whatever land we create on field 19, our grass meadow, will also need liming as well. Let's try and get these stacked if we can. Oops. Perhaps could have done with having that weight on the back. As long as we're careful, we should be alright. Can't see. We're not far forward enough. It's kind of weird. We're rolling back a little bit. There we go. There's it stacked. So we'll go drop the forks off. You know what, in fact, I might leave the forks in here. Yeah, let's leave the forks in here. No, wait, before we do that, let's get the forks, use the forks to load those pallets into our fertilizer spreader. Should have just left the cover open, really, shouldn't I? Rather than closing again after cleaning it out. There we go. Ourselves all squared up properly. There we go, it's the first pallet there, so that'll be 1,000 litres going in. And then, I can't remember how much was in the other bag. Was it 400 litres in the second bag, or just over? I'm going to half fill the fertilizer spreader, because I want to see just how far I can get on half a tank rather than a full tank. That'll give me some indication. Plus, you know, if it turns out that we don't really need to use that much fertilizer to fill, I'd rather not have leftover fertilizer lying around that I bought unnecessarily when money is so tight. So we'll just half fill our unit. And that'll give us a kind of a clearer indication of just roughly how much it might cost us in total to fertilize field 18. There we go. Forks dropped off. Let's get connected. Drop the cover. You can't see it, but you did see the shadow of it move. So cover is down. Now let's think, how do I want to do this? Do I want a straight line from this corner here? That might be the best way to do it. We'll waste a little bit on this edge, but we'll make sure we've got good coverage on this side, and it hopefully will minimize just how much of an overlap we're going to have going forward when we do the side fiddly bit as well. Is our worker... Oh, worker's paying for the fertilizer. Let's turn that off. There we go. I was wondering if the level wasn't going down. That's from when we were getting the worker to buy the lime direct. So I'm watching the decrease rate here. It's ticking down at a steady rate. Not too fast, considering how much we're actually putting out there. So I don't think it's going to cost us too much to fertilize this field. I think we could afford to do both fields, given that sort of initial 100-litre tick down there, and that's how much we've covered in 100 litres, give or take. Yeah, I feel reasonably confident that we can get, we can certainly get this field done, but I feel reasonably confident we can also get the next field done as well. So I'm going to end the spray there. I want to put in a manual pass along the bottom here. Oh, look at that. It hasn't grown in properly. That's odd. It's very odd. We might have to come back and fertilise this field again tomorrow. Maybe it'll grow in as the rest of the day progresses. We'll see. Right. Need to go a little bit further in. That should do it. Looks just off again. Yeah, it's ever so slight, isn't it? Not going to worry about going back and tagging that tiny little strip, but I want to make sure that we've got full coverage going forward. So there we go. I'll get this side piece done, and then I'll run this until the tank runs dry. We'll go top it up, and hopefully that bottom corner will start to grow in. We'll see. That's better. It looks like I just turned crop growth off just a fraction too early. You can see that that has now actually popped in. So I was just a little too hasty in turning off plant growth. So we'll turn that back off again. There we go. Now that we've got our little missing patch, you know, here where it should be. That's the important thing. We're getting this kind of bottom pass done here, so that we've got turning room at the edge of the field. Straighten that line up a touch. There we go. And now we'll head back over to this side. I do kind of like the shadows of the telegraph wires there. Almost looks like there are lines in the field. Of course, it's just a shadow, but we get lined up about here, I think it is. Yeah, that's not too bad at all. So, time for us to continue with the fertilizing. We'll get this field finished off. I might have a couple of passes yet before I need to another couple of passes before I need to fill this up. So we can definitely afford to fertilize field 15 as well as field 18. I think that much is no longer in doubt, given that I still have over 700 litres in the back of the tank. And you know, I've done a full pass. I've done that side piece there. I've done a pass along the bottom, and now we're moving this way. Yeah, we can definitely afford to do both fields. That's good. That's key. So if we take a look at our chart here, there you can see. We just turn the lime state off. There you can see the condition of our fields. Field 1 we don't have to worry about, that's already done. Field 18 we're doing now, 15, and then it's just keep an eye out for weeds and deal with the weeds, and then we can just let our crops grow once we've dealt with any weed issues that we might have. Alright, we have pretty much emptied the tank, just 100 litres left. So let's get some more in here. Don't want to go too crazy. Again, I don't want to spend way more on fertiliser costs than I need to. So, as I say, we'll be looking at around about half a tank, which is about 6-ish, maybe about 7,000 litres. Oh, and there we go. Actually, we're at cash. That's as much as we can put in. So this is going to have to do. It's certainly going to be enough to do the rest of field 18, and I'm hopeful that given the relatively low drop rate, it'll be enough to do all of field 15 as well. We're nearly halfway through the field already, so I've probably put more in than I needed to, but as I say, we have got a second field to worry about, so we'll just have to make do with however much we have left. You know, we can't go back and get more. We are now at the point where we are completely broke and dependent on income from any of our products before we can start spending any money again. So we will be, as I say, working on baling. The weeding isn't really going to cost us anything. We have a weeder. We don't need any equipment. We have all of our baling equipment. We have the baler. We have a wrapper on that baler for silage baling. We have mowers. We have a tedder. We have a windrower. We have a bale trailer. We have weights and front loaders. We have everything that we are possibly going to need for our grass work. So, yes, we are slightly in debt now, you know, in terms of operational cash, but all of our expensive stuff is out of the way now. You know, we don't have to spend, apart from wages, we don't have to spend any more money now. No more seed costs. We still have some seed anyway. We still have a couple of thousand litres, nearly 2,500 litres of seed in our Pronto. So that's the seed costs for planting OSR covered. Yeah, and we won't be putting fertiliser in on those. So we're pretty much good. You know, I can't think of any expenses coming up other than, as I say, wages and interest payments that are going to affect us. So we can just carry on with the farming now and just get everything done. And once we're clear of all of that, you know, we'll have a load of crop to sell. We'll have a load of bales to sell. The only other slight expense that we are due to incur, and we can cover this with the baling as we discussed earlier, is the licensing fee at the BGA where we're going to need to come up with what, 11,700, I think it is the cost, and that's not much at all, really. You know, considering how much we can make just from the baling, I reckon, you know, we'll cover that cost pretty quickly. So yeah, it looks bad, but it's not. We're actually in a very healthy position now, because we have 3 planted fields. We've got one that is completely maximised, and the field's been limed. We're getting its second phase of application of fertiliser here. The field was ploughed. Our other 2 fields ploughed and fertilised once. Actually, one of them fertilised all the way up to stage 2 fertilisation, just needs lime removal next year. Field 15 obviously needs another stage of fertiliser and lime removal next year, but we're in a very, very strong position now. Now, as I say, until we get to our next round of actual crop planting next year, we have no more major expenses for the rest of this year, which is great. Yeah. It's crucial, really, because, as I say, we're out of cash. So it's down to us to get by with what we have. I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. If we hadn't got all the equipment that we needed, then yes, I'd be very worried, because we wouldn't be in a position where we could make money. We'd be totally dependent on our crops. But we are not in that situation. We have everything that we need to progress this farm. We just need to be a little bit more patient now. We're on the final pass on this field now. Not much left, just a kind of a little island here in the middle. And once that's done, we'll be moving over to field 15. We've got enough width here to cover this all in one pass, I believe. I hope. Oh, maybe. Yeah, it's going to be really tight, look, but we can just about. Look at that. That was really kind of stretching it a little bit towards the end, but we made it. There we go. Fertilizer is now completely spread over field 18. We still have over 5,000 litres in the tank. That's fantastic stuff. So we've got more than enough to do that field there. Who knows? I may even take whatever's left and sell it back at the sort of the local store, rather than hang on to it. I don't think we're going to need it for anything else, so it would make sense, wouldn't it? Give us a little bit of operational capital just to cover wages and so on and so forth, without the debt racking up. I mean, we could just hang on to it, because we will need it again next year. I'll think about that. I'll see how much we've got left at the end. Let's get unfolded. I'm going to do a pass along the bottom of the field. We'll do one along the top. And then we'll start at that side of the field, I think. Or, start up in that top corner, or maybe down in this bottom corner. And work from right to left this time. Just because I think it'll be easier if we can get the squareness of this part of the field done. Without any major hiccups or issues. We're too far in. We just need to step out a little bit more. If we go there. Actually, a little bit more. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Just make sure we get this complete bit on the side here. If we can work a straight edge, it means that when we get to the kind of trickier bit over there, the angled bit that joins along the side or runs along the side of field 18 will be in a better condition. if we have that as the last bit to work with. I think we won't waste quite so much of this fertilizer that way. Let's get turned. Just take a look at our line. It's pretty much a straight line all the way along the top here, which is quite good. I just want to have obviously space for turning so we don't risk running into the trees. There we go. Good stuff. Almost done on the field. Just one awkward little side bit left to do. And there it is. That's all that remains, is just this side piece that we deliberately left until last. We've got just under 4,000 litres left as well. I've decided I'm going to keep hold of the fertiliser. We'll back it up, and we'll stick it in the shed next to the lime pallets so that we have it for next year. It's just, yeah, it doesn't seem worth running all the way over to the store just to go and sell a tiny little bit of fertiliser. We'll hang on to it. And then, as I say, when we need it next year, it saves us a little bit of expense at the start of the next planting season, doesn't it? So, there we go. We have finished fertilising our crops. All of our crops, actually. I missed a little bit just there. I have. Just a very small patch. There we go. There's a thin line just here as well, look. We may as well. We have the spare fertiliser, don't we? Just get that that thin little strip. There we go. So we'll go get this cleaned, put away. We'll empty the fertiliser out of the back of this unit, because we're not going to need that again now until next year when we lime or the end of this year when we lime our fields. So we'll get it cleaned, drained, bag the fertiliser up and stick it in the shed. Get the 6M cleaned and put away. I'll probably switch the tyres over as well. Take the skinny wheels back off and put something else on. We'll see. And then that's it for the day. Another successful day, getting the jobs done that we needed to get done. So tomorrow we'll start our grass work. We'll get the mowers out, and we'll do some of our meadow. We won't do the whole thing, but we'll do some of the meadow, so that we can do some baling. We'll make some hay bales tomorrow, so that we can send that off towards the zoo. And then, if we have time, we might do a little bit of silage baling as well. We'll leave those out for a couple of days, and then we'll be able to go and do some fermenting. In fact, I might do the whole lot. And as I say, just leave the silage bales to ferment. We'll see. We'll get the hay done first. We'll get that out of the way, and then we'll work on silage baling after that. I think that's going to be the best way forward for us. So that's it from me. Thanks for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I'll be back with some more Marwell Manor very soon.